The moment her lips brushed mine, gentle, uncertain, almost trembling, my entire world shifted in a way I didn't understand. It wasn't fireworks or cinematic music, it was something quieter, deeper, like a hidden truth rising from the shadows of my own chest. I remember the soft dusk light in her room, the hum of a fan, the simple excuse of practice so we wouldn't embarrass ourselves with boys. But the second her warmth touched me, I knew I wasn't practicing for anyone else. I wasn't learning, I was discovering. And later I would realize that this moment, simple yet life-changing, was where my lesbian era quietly began. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. Her name was Mara, my best friend since childhood. The kind of girl who felt like a summer evening, warm and golden, even in the coldest months. We grew up together, shared secrets, fears, dreams, and the foolish belief that growing up would be easier than staying young. I thought I understood everything about her, but I didn't know then that she would become the mirror that showed me who I truly was. Back then, I wasn't someone who thought deeply about labels or identity. I thought life followed a simple pattern: go to school, get good grades, date boys, fit in, blend in. I was quiet, cautious, terrified of making mistakes. Mara was the opposite: confident, fearless, always pushing boundaries with a grin that dared the world to challenge her. She dragged me into adventures, convinced me to try new things, and filled the empty spaces of my shy personality with laughter. But that summer, when we were 17, something in the air between us changed. Maybe it was the way she looked at me longer than before. Maybe it was the way I started noticing small things: her fingers brushing mine when we walked, her laughter lingering in my mind, the way her presence made my chest tighten. I thought it was admiration. I thought it was normal. I didn't know it was something else. One night, lying in her room beneath glow-in-the-dark stars, she joked about being terrible at kissing. I laughed, teased her, and somehow the conversation turned into a challenge. A playful dare. A suggestion that we practice so we wouldn't freeze the first time a boy leaned in. It sounded innocent. It sounded ridiculous. But it felt oddly possible, and when she leaned forward to show me, the world went impossibly still. Her hand touched my cheek, warm and steady, grounding me. Her breath mingled with mine, soft as a whisper. When her lips met mine, gently and carefully, something unspoken bloomed inside me. Something frightening. Something beautiful. Something that made my heart race in ways no boy ever had. We pulled away too fast. Laughed too loudly. Pretended it meant nothing, but it meant everything. That night I couldn't sleep. My thoughts swirled, messy and frightening. Why did it feel so right? Why did my chest ache with a strange longing? Why did I want to do it again? Not to practice, not to prepare, but because her lips felt safe, familiar, essential. I tried brushing the feeling aside, convincing myself it was confusion, hormones, teenage curiosity. But the truth lingered like a quiet echo in my mind: I didn't want to kiss anyone else. I wanted her. The following weeks were a slow unraveling. I found myself memorizing the curve of her smile, the sound of her footsteps, the way sunlight caught in her hair. I started feeling nervous around her, stumbling over words, avoiding eye contact even though I desperately wanted to look at her. She noticed, of course, she always noticed, but she didn't ask. Maybe she was scared too, but the hardest part wasn't the confusion. It was the guilt. I felt like I was betraying her trust by wanting more than she intended to give. I feared ruining our friendship, breaking the fragile bond that had shaped so much of my life. And beneath all that was something deeper: fear of what it meant about me. Fear of how others would react. Fear of discovering I wasn't who I thought I was. The turning point came unexpectedly. We were at the beach, the sky painted in soft pinks and oranges as the sun dipped low. She splashed water at me, teasing, laughing. When she slipped and almost fell, I grabbed her hand. For a moment, we just stared at each other, breathless, wet, hearts pounding. The world faded into a quiet hum, and I felt that familiar pull again: warm, aching, undeniable. She squeezed my hand once, gently, as if asking a question without words, but I panicked. I pulled away, muttered an excuse, ran ahead before she could say anything. She called my name, confusion and hurt in her voice, but I couldn't turn back. That night, lying alone in my bed, I felt like I was being torn apart between fear and truth, between who I thought I was and who I might be becoming. Eventually, I couldn't avoid her anymore. She showed up at my house, eyes full of worry. She didn't accuse. She didn't push. She simply looked at me with that painfully kind expression I had always loved. That's when everything spilled out, messy, trembling, whispered admissions of confusion and fear. I told her I didn't understand what was happening inside me. That the kiss meant something I wasn't prepared for. That I was terrified of losing her. She didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. She sat beside me, her presence steady, grounding, familiar. She told me she had wondered too. That she had felt something that night, something she didn't know how to name. She admitted she was confused as well, scared of changing a friendship that had been her home for so long. But she also said something that stayed with me forever. She said that whatever I was feeling, I didn't have to figure it out alone. With those words, something heavy lifted from my chest. We didn't dive into a relationship. We didn't suddenly redefine ourselves. Instead, we explored gently, slowly, giving each other space to breathe, think, understand. We talked late into the nights, unraveling feelings and memories we had both tried to ignore. Each conversation brought clarity. Each moment brought comfort. And with every passing day, I realized more and more. I wasn't confused. I wasn't lost. I was discovering myself. In time, we kissed again, softly, intentionally, not as practice but as truth. And this time, nothing felt frightening. Everything felt right. That moment wasn't the beginning of a perfect journey. There were challenges, family expectations, societal pressure, our own fears about being judged. But it was the beginning of honesty, of visibility, of self-acceptance. The beginning of my lesbian era, not defined by a label forced upon me, but discovered gently through a person who had always known my heart better than I did. And now, years later, I look back and see that Mara wasn't just my first kiss. She was my awakening, my courage, my reflection. She was the reason I learned to embrace who I truly am. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps keep emotional, human stories alive. Before the ending, please comment, love is love. In the end, my journey began not with certainty, but with a soft kiss from a girl who held my heart long before I understood what it meant. And that moment, simple, quiet, unexpected, was where my truth began to bloom.